Happy Wednesday, everybody. I'm sorry I didn't do a video last week. I was so sick. I had to cancel everything, all my meetings, my Reiki class I was teaching. So I'm back in action for the most part, a little bit lingering, but much better than I was last week. So this week I want to talk about something a few of you had reached out to me, and it was about essentially connecting your different bodies. So you have your physical body, which you're very well aware of, and then you have your other bodies. So you have your emotional body, your mental body, and then there's like your spiritual or etheric body. There's also another one called your astral body, but I mean, the bodies that you have are infinite, but we're going to keep it very, very simple. So we're going to keep it physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual, okay? And with my work with the quantum healing hypnosis technique that I do, and alongside some of the Reiki as well, your body is a physical messenger. So your body is always telling you something. So most times what grabs our attention is if we're experiencing pain and discomfort. Okay? So if you're experiencing pain or discomfort, it could be because of something physical happened, right? You stubbed your toe, or you have a cold, you have an illness, or whatever it is. So there's all these things that happen to us, and we can give them physical reasons if we want. If you want, just for fun, maybe there's another reason for that, and maybe it's backed by the other bodies that you have, your mental, your emotional, and your spiritual body. Okay, so let's dive into that. So all of us are made up of, you could call it a hologram, a matrix, or a grid, or a vibration or frequency. Okay, so I'm here as Candice, existing as me, and I'm like a unique little fingerprint, a beautiful little snowflake, whatever analogy that calls to you. You know, I'm special in my DNA. No one has the exact same arrangement of atoms and molecules as me, as I identify as Candice here. Okay. So however you want to see that is great. Some people will see that, like, again, as a grid, as a matrix, or as a hologram. They may see it as colors. They may see it as resonance. They may see it in other ways, shapes, patterns, in their mind's eye. So some people not say anything. They just say, yeah, I see this lady on TikTok talking about stuff. She's saying words. I don't know what the hell she's talking about, these grids and matrices. And that's fine too. So when we are a droplet in this ocean, okay? The ocean is your soul or oversoul, okay? The big kahuna. And then we're this little tiny drop in this ocean, okay? There's just a little tiny expression of it. And that little tiny expression is this physical body, okay? And sometimes when the big ocean part of us wants to give us a message, it sometimes has a hard time filtering through and getting to us. So it'll try to tell us with like a knowing or a nudge or an idea will pop into your head, you know? And usually it's not a loud screaming idea. It's this quiet, soft little nudge or whisper typically that's full of unconditional love and all that good stuff. And a lot of times we don't listen to that, myself included. The big booming ego always tells me what I'm doing wrong and what's wrong with me and how I could be better and, you know, all this guilt and shame and blah, blah, blah. And that usually takes over. Not all the time, but most of the time for us. So this message from the big part of you gets ignored, okay? It's trying to come through your spiritual part of you, your aura, your matrix, your hologram, whatever. It's trying to come through as a knowing. It's not working. They're knocking at the door and you're not answering. They're ringing the doorbell, you're not answering. So then it comes through maybe more as an idea through the mental body, the stories that you tell yourself. You know, like, oh, you could do this thing and it would be really cool if you did this thing because then this other stuff would happen that you really like. Okay, there's this idea that keeps popping in over and over, like a theme or a pattern, this idea, something you could do or achieve or be. And maybe you listen to it then, right? And then all is good. You're in alignment, you're on your path. Everything's hunky-dory. Maybe you don't listen to it. And then your ego goes, you can't do that. Who do you think you are? Imposter syndrome. You know, you can't, you know, you're not special. You can't. Why would you even think you could do that? That's ridiculous. You gaslight yourself hard, okay? So then it filters down further into your emotional body. You start to feel off, kind of drained. You know, the stuff you used to like, you don't like anymore. The people you hang out with kind of suck. And you're like, what is going on? You're withdrawing from people. You're feeling depressed. And it could be, you know, maybe there's other things going on in your life, other themes and things happening outside of you. But if you look, there's a pattern. And I'll promise you that pattern of what's happening outside of you that's affecting your emotional, mental state is also mirroring what is happening within, that your higher self is trying to communicate to you. Okay? So you may deny that, but I promise if you look, you'll find it. Just didn't listen. So you're feeling down, you're feeling sad, you're feeling agitated, maybe you're feeling angry and resentful, and you're like, you're not you. You're not the version of you that you identify as. Okay, so it's going through your emotional body now. Still don't listen. Maybe like months go by, years. Oops, sorry. And you're still not listening. Also, you got this weird thing in your back, or in your leg, your lungs, your chest. You can't breathe. Chronic headaches. This weird thing that happens. Your hand starts twitching funny. Like, I don't know. It's endless. You have a weird rash in a spot. Like, okay. And it's maybe because your back hurts because you lifted something heavy and you just haven't taken care of it. Okay, that's what you're going to tell yourself. But if you look back and see the patterns, there's this message that's been trying to get across to you, and you're not fucking listening. So it's about tuning into these messages. So eventually the physical body expresses pain and discomfort, and then you kind of go, what do you want? Okay, like you've got my attention now, and your higher self, your oversoul is going, oh, thank God we're getting through finally. Okay, and that's usually when we tune in. And our higher self's so patient; they love us so much, and they go, okay, you're listening. I'm gonna relay this message with unconditional love, and that's why I love them so much. When I get to speak with them through my clients, they're always so patient and so kind, and they always joke about how we don't listen to them, but they love us anyways. So you ask yourself, now you work back through the chain, okay? If it's expressing itself physically, let's use myself for an example. So I was having very severe breathing problems a few years ago, like very severe. I had a hard time going to work. I had to drive myself to the hospital at one point. The doctor and the emerge was like, people like you could die, like you need to take care of this sooner. I had borderline chronic obstruction in my lungs, like almost bordering on COPD. And then it turned out I was almost a diabetic. Like I had all this stuff going on, my adrenal system. I was just too stressed, okay? Too taxed. But the breathing. So at first I was like, oh, it's the allergies. It's, maybe it's stress. Eventually I go, maybe it's stress. And then it kind of dampened a bit because my body and my whole self was like, yeah, there is some stress, but you need to identify what the stress is. So it alleviated some symptoms, but I still needed to identify the stress. And at this point, things had compounded. So it was more than one message. But it was also the same message coming through these multiple messages. So the message you ask yourself is, okay, where do I feel this in my body? For me, it was in my chest, my heart, my lungs. Okay, what are the symptoms? I can't breathe. I'm coughing and I can't breathe. And you can just say, okay, what is the message? You literally close your eyes, ask your body. You're talking to your body like a weirdo. What's the message? And when I asked myself that, it was, I don't deserve to be here and take up this space, this air. And I'm choking on my words because I'm not expressing myself. And I am holding on to a lot of grief and a lot of anger due to many things. And the things that I was angry about, if I looked back through my life, there was a recurring pattern of me giving my power away to other people and appeasing them over myself, to the point where I was suffering, like literally suffocating. I would suffocate myself before I would help someone else ahead of myself. So I'd be suffocating. I was having a hard time with words there. And then I go, okay, how does that make me feel? I felt anxious. Where do I feel the anxiety? Where do I feel it in my body? For me, I feel it in my chest. Some people feel it in their gut. Some people feel it in their head. Anywhere else. For me, it felt like this vibrating, icky, yellow, right, in this chest area. I'm like, okay. It doesn't mean you have to know what that means. Just you acknowledge, okay, for me, it's colors. Some people, maybe it's triangles. Maybe it's a pattern. Maybe it's something else I can't think of right now. So you're working through the emotional body, the anxiety. Okay, and I had some anger. Where am I feeling the anger, right? For me, I feel it in my jaw. I'm like, ugh. So just identifying these things and bringing consciousness to it can be so helpful. And just recognizing patterns in your body. And then you go to the next level. What story am I telling myself? What is all this attached to? What narrative, what story is feeding this, right? And that's where I got to, well, it's because I don't deserve to be here. And I'm not worthy of what I want and what I love. I need to be here and help other people ahead of myself. And my higher self was going, oh, hell no. You need to help yourself. Put your oxygen mask on first. And so I had to deprogram that and relearn. And that was my struggle. And so now I can breathe fine. I'm not on any drugs or pharmaceutical medications anymore, or any natural medications for that matter. So hopefully sharing my story a little bit can help you to tap into your body bodies and help you get some answers. Thank you.